What's going on, YouTube? Decided I would film for a little bit. So from our typical YouTube videos, we have changed up the appearance of the background. Let me know what you think. So today I wanted to talk about photo editing. And this is my style. I have a very unorthodox style of photo editing, and I have been told it many a times, but yet it seems to work for me, so I'm going to stick with it. And I have a couple photos, 3 to be exact, that I would like to show you how I edit them. Now, if you've been on my Instagram and you've seen these photos and they're not the exact same way that I edited them before, yeah, some of them I took a while ago, some of them I have recently taken, and yeah, so anyway, but a lot of the things that I do, I'm actually importing the photos right now. A lot of things that I do to start out with is I do my crop right out the gate. That's the first thing that I try to knock out, is cropping. Why? Not one clue of actual reason, just that's the way I've always done it, and that's the way my workflow rolls, so it is good for me. And we have our 3 photos in. Alright, so now, and like I said, take into consideration that now I do have presets. Do I use them very often? No. Mostly I am trying to see what a photo is going to look like before I start playing with it. Alright, so this is our first photo. Now, our first photo, was taken at night. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night, and my wife and I wanted to go play around with the flash. So we did. So now the first thing, as I said, I play with the crop first. That's my number one thing. Sometimes you get lucky and you can auto straighten it. Like this one, it'd be pretty hard. There's a lot of bokeh in this one to do it on your own. But normally if I have a good line to go off of, I do it. Now I crop everything to 4.5 by 10 for Instagram, and I try to decide on which side I want. I like that. Hit done. Now, I know that this is a subject that gets a lot of controversy to start out with, so I hit auto. Boom. Alright, that's good. I mean, that's pretty good, right? That definitely changed it up a bit. Alright, so now that we've done that, now what I do is I play with the sliders. I'll drag them up, down. Don't ask me why I do it with exposure, but I just do, and get a good feel for it. Now, one thing that I do try to do first off, which was my first step that I forgot, remove chromatic and enable profile correction in Lightroom. Number one deal. Now, the second thing that you should really do is your photo sharp. Does it have a lot of noise? No? Rock on. So, we are good to go. Now, we're not doing a whole lot of Photoshop here. This is just me showing you how I would turn this in just Lightroom. Alright, normally I would take this into Photoshop. You can see there's a couple things on her jacket which we can fix, and I can, this is the nice thing about Lightroom. The only problem that I have with Lightroom versus Photoshop is it takes twice to remove something, and you would never know it was there unless basically you just saw me do it. So anyway, alright. Now, one other thing that I do is I love her eyes. So we are going to hit the radial filter. It is going to be on invert and line it up with the iris as best as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to come up here and we are going to iris enhance. Okay. Oh, see, turned off invert for something else. And so now we're going to up the exposure. Now you don't want to go too high, and let me show you why. Okay, so done. Okay, even if you went, say you didn't go that crazy, right? And you went to 2. Looks like she has cat's eyes. We're not going to do that. We are going to make this as natural as possible with regards to what it looks like. So we're going to go to 0.74. I like it. I did it for this picture last time, so I know where this one's set. If you don't, play around with it. Make sure that you really like what you're doing, just to make sure. Okay, now it looks better. Our eyes pop a little bit more. We're good to go. Now, let's see. I really like everything else. I don't really need to do much. There's not a lot of imperfections that I need to fix. It looks pretty good for a portrait. Okay, so now what I like to play with is these sliders down here. Texture, clarity, and dehaze. Now, for those of you that don't know what texture does, it takes away the texture, puts a lot in. Be careful with it. Alright, so we're going to go to about 15, zoom in. I don't see anything crazy. We're good. Next one is clarity. Same thing. Be careful. Don't give it too much. And I am going to do 10 because I'm on the wild side tonight. Alright. Still looking good. Don't see any problems. Dehaze. Now make sure that you understand that everything that dehaze does. Like I said, play with everything. Now we're just going to use just a touch. It's not going to be enough to affect anything too much, but we just want to drop a little bit of that haze. That's the reason it dehaze. Alright, now for your tone curve. Alright, so for this, there are time and places to really just knock these out of the park, and then there's times that you just need to be subtle. So your highlights, it's not doing much on this photo. Your lights, I want to go more just up just a little bit. Bring the darks down to really give it that just mood. Then shadows, let's drop it down just a little bit, but not a whole lot. Actually, you know what? Now we can drop it down. That looks good. We don't want to go crazy. -10 it is. Now, the one thing that I really like to do that makes me really hit it with this is another radial. Put it right over her face. And we are going to invert this. Make sure it's where you want it. And we are going to up the exposure just a little bit. Really make her face the center point of that photo. I think it looks great. Y'all tell me what you think. Some people love it, some people will hate it. Second photo. Now, once again, these are all the way that I edit everything. You don't have to edit my way. You don't have to like the way I edit. You know what that means. If you don't, read between the lines. Alright, so this was a friend of mine, Ryan. We were down at George R. Brown in downtown Houston. And we had some fun. Now, I decided when I shot this photo that I was going to run this as black and white. Why? Well, he had white clothes on, and it just seemed like the right thing to do. I like a black and white photo just as much as the next person, but they can be overdone. So, black and white. We haven't done anything else. Cropped it. We're good to go. Hit auto, because auto is your best friend to start if you don't want to use presets. And I don't like using a lot of presets, but every once in a while they come in handy. So, with that being said, you zoom in, make sure there's nothing crazy going on. The photo is, I love this photo personally. I really do. This is one of my favorite photos that I've ever done. And let's start. Now we're going to come down here to the tone curve, and we are going to give it a little boost in highlights. And we're going to drop out the lights, up the darks, and I want the shadows just to have that little oomph. Okay? Now once again, my way. So we come up here, I want to hit it with just a touch of dehaze, not much. I really like it, but you can really overdo it. Clarity, once again, that's a whole lot. So we are going to go with 10. Texture, you can get crazy with it. Don't. This is why you should silence your phones while you're doing a video. Uno momento, por favor. Oh, so I have a funny story while we're in the middle of this. And we are looking at this photo. Now I'll get to my funny story in a second. And to me, I like it. It's simple. There's not a whole lot that need to be done to it, in my opinion. Besides, obviously, going in Photoshop, cleaning up a few things. But other than that, I like it. It's a funny story. Some of y'all might remember my video before about charging your batteries with gear. So I tried making this video the other day. Guess what? My batteries died. Okay, so on to the next one. Now this one was taken with a model named Michelle. Just met her a couple weeks ago. Super cool girl. Ready, I mean, just awesome. Really, really, really cool. So, once again, we're just going to crop it first. That's just, I just love starting to crop. And then we're going to hit our remove chromatic and our enable. Alright, now we're going to zoom in. Okay, looks pretty clear. Good, sharp. And I love her eyes. She's got blue eyes. I'm a sucker for blue eyes, especially a model with blue eyes, just because. So we're going to hit auto. Alright, so it brings it down. Now, obviously, she's a little pale. So, now we are going to rock and roll. I like to bring down the exposure just a little bit. I really like this area back here, and I want to make sure that just stands out. So now the highlights, we're going to bring back down the shadows because I really like that shadow right there. Yeah. Alright, so highlights. I don't like bringing them down. Not enough to bring up. We're not going to touch them. Lights. We're going to bring them down just a handful. We don't want to overdo it, but we don't want to underdo it. Darks. Raise them up. Drop them. Always drop them. Shadows. We will lift just a touch in the tone curve. Alright. Now, you may think that we are done, but we are not. Hit the radial filter. Boom. Now, I use iris enhance. You can do it yourself. It works the same way. Now we're going to hit invert because you have to invert. And we are going to go with, what is that? 6:3. Alright, we are going to duplicate. Bam. Zoom out. The eyes look just Alright, now radial filter again over her face. Now when I say over the person's face, you're really going for the focal area of where you're trying to draw the attention to. Obviously for me, I want her face. So we're going to leave it off invert, and we're going to drop the exposure. Pow. Now, for a very quick Lightroom edit, I really like that. That is amazing. Obviously, if I was going to take a little more time to do this, there would be a few other things that I would do in Photoshop. I'd really be cleaning up the hair on her face, any imperfections, but if I just wanted to post a photo up that I really, really liked without having to do a whole lot of work to, this is it. I mean, this is an amazing photo. The reflection is epic. And it looks really good. Now, one thing that I do play with, and like I said, this was going to be quick, but I do want to go over this point, is your split toning. A lot of people don't do it, and if you don't know what it is, like I didn't, play with it. Some of them are going to look really good, some of them are going to look really bad. Okay, so your top are your highlights, bottom is your shadows. Now you can up this. Now I have this on the orange-ish, orange-yellow, which really brought her skin back. But now I have this on the purple. And we're going to up this just a little bit. Not too much, because you don't want to overdo it. But you can notice there's a little bit of purple in the shadows. And, sorry about that, I'm just clicking away today. It looks really good. Now, once again, this is the way I edit photos. And is this all the time? No. But if I was going to do a really quick edit that I just wanted to get done, this would be it. Now I will make a video later of how to really go through and do this, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how I edit photos that I take. Like I said, whether you like them, whether you don't, leave me the comments and below. Let me know what you think, please. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night.